Hey, welcome to our January episode of Figuring It Out with Amber GM. Today I'm interviewing Alexis Cuevas, my very good friend from Cleveland, currently based in Columbus. She's a dancer and photographer, and we're just going to talk about how she's gotten to a place where she started sharing her art with the world. So, Alexis, if you want to give a brief introduction of yourself.
Hello, I'm Alexis. I'm a second year at Ohio State University, currently pursuing a major in dance and a minor in social and personality psych. I'm also a photographer, like Amber said. My work focuses on humans and their connection to nature and time and change, in short. So yeah.
Yes, and beautiful works always. I'm always excited to see the things that you produce. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about how we get to a place where we're producing, because I mean, when I met you, you were already doing everything that you do now, and it was always inspiring, and just seeing you keep going and growing in that. Last year I took a break from college to figure out what I needed in life, and that's where I kind of started painting more. But that was actually inspired by Alexis, who first did that and just did her dance and did a lot of really cool stuff with it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that you're inspired by me. I don't know. I don't think that it's easy, especially in the position we were in, where we had, scholarships that were given to us and all this pressure from our families constantly, to be this role model figure that goes to college and gets their degree. It's hard to go ahead and feel like it's okay to take a break, or feel like it's okay to take time for yourself to think through what your options are in terms of what you want to do. So yeah, again, I appreciate that you're inspired by me at all. I'm inspired that you also have the courage and that you're doing the damn thing, because you're amazing, Amber.
Oh, well, Thank you, Alexis. But I want to go back to what you said too about having to fill other people's expectations and not being able to take time to figure out what you want.
Yeah.
Because go ahead.
I don't know. I think in terms of what we were talking about earlier in social media, I think that at a point there's you have to be vulnerable on social media. I forgot what I initially was going with this. Go ahead and restate. What did you say?
Well, no, just that idea that you had to take time to really figure out what you want, and the vulnerability, you're right, is a huge part of that. Because I mean, painting is one thing, and saying I like painting is one thing, but when I go and I say, okay, well, I'm going to put this out for the world to see it, no matter what people are going to feel, especially when my family's expectation is that's a side thing, that's not going to be whatever I do with my life.
Yeah
Exactly that. Yeah, but I want to hear about your perspective on all of this, and so really just talk at me.
Oh God,
as friends.
Okay. So awkward.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking about when you mentioned the whole vulnerability aspect is, again, there's so many expectations that are put on us every day by people. This is what I meant when trying to get to social media. There's that extra vulnerability that you kind of have to have now in today's world, where we are so technological with everything. So it's weird. There's a constant push and pull between, am I comfortable with being this vulnerable, especially on social media, for, not only your family to see, but everybody to judge you based off of that. It's hard. Social media.
It is hard. I even with the social media piece, I feel as much as I like to share my art and stuff with the world, it also feels this weird kind of selling yourself thing, where you have to constantly be thinking about your brand, or if you're not thinking about your brand, then somehow it doesn't come off as being as serious as others.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
I feel like we've had that conversation multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Or I've had that conversation with a lot of different creatives too, where at some point they lose this motivation to be creative because they feel like they're having to do it a certain way, or people expect them to do it a certain way that just doesn't fulfill their idea of, you know, how producing their art should feel.
Mm-hmm. And what the like purpose is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you get people to understand, you know, what your purpose of your pieces are if everyone is still having their own generalizations about you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true, and that's very real. So how do you work through that feeling of like, well, if everybody's gonna have their own impression, like, where do I stand in sharing these things anyways?
Oh, it's so weird talking about myself. I'm sorry. I'm used to asking people questions and listening. This is
no, but I'm asking you because I am like when I say I'm inspired by you, I mean that like very genuinely, and so like I do want to know, and I think that like the same way that you encouraged me, because like literally the year after you took your year off, I was like, okay, this looks possible, maybe I can do it too. Mm-hmm. And so like I want other people to be able to see that too, and like to have that to look back on and like, wow, Alexis like does all this cool stuff, and like she's been where I am, or so whatever
sweet.
else. No, I'm serious. So I'm like dead serious.
Yeah, I know you are. That is so nice. Yeah, I guess it's just, you know, and going back to even what you were saying about, I'm trying to think of the exact words or the exact phrase. Sorry. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the exact phrase that you used. What was it? I can't remember, but just having the courage to, not saying I'm courageous at all, don't get me wrong.
I don't know
I'm
about
pretty
that.
Cowardly. I'm pretty cowardly sometimes, as is everybody has their moments. But just trying to understand yourself more. Mm-hmm. I think is very important, especially in your forms of expression, because it's really all you have, you know. Mm-hmm. You are very communicative with your painting, and that's how you feel, or honestly with all arts you do. You're very communicative through your artworks, and you really depict an emotion, and that's what you have. So I think for humans, it's just finding a way to communicate or be vulnerable in a way that's most comfortable for you. Mm-hmm. So that's creativity for you. For me, it's dancing and photography. For the next person, you know, it could be sculpting, you know, whatever everybody gets into. But yeah, it's just having the courage to find ways, I guess, to be communicative in ways that are comfortable for you.
Mm-hmm. And I do feel like so much of like art is expressing yourself. Like that is, I mean, I can know things in this world. Like I know I'm sitting on this couch. I know that I'm breathing air. But like the only thing I really have is like the way I see the world. And so
Perception.
I do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I agree that a lot of like art is expressing your inner world, and like that can be scary. I mean, I know it's hard to do in relationships and stuff, like even with friends or with like partners, with family. And so taking that next step, yeah, it does require a lot of vulnerability.
100%. 100%. And it takes a lot to kind of address those emotions, to be able to express them too. Especially when, you know, you're, like you said, you can know that you are in this physical world, but what does it mean to truly know yourself and your thoughts, and then to be able to express them in a way that feels natural to you.
Yeah, and not working for those expectations or those.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's what I'm trying to explore anyways in my photos, is the idea, and I'm constantly drawn to this idea of autonomy. And what does it mean to like truly be of oneself? And how do you capture that, especially in photos where it's a single frame in a second in this like period of time. And so how do you make it authentic? to not only the photo, but to the person in the photo, to the nature that surrounds the photo. And that's why I like to include nature in my photography, because I think it's the most interesting way to study autonomy, because nature is itself, but it's so influenced by,
the world around
it. And so I'm really interested in how that connects to humans in the way that they function themselves. Yeah.
And that was a beautiful way to put it too. Like, I mean, you're right. It's not like that idea is something so wild, but putting it in such like clear words is something I would have never thought of. But you're right. Like, nature is itself, regardless of what's going on, but it will always respond to the world around it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me a bit about what you're working on.
So let's see. Honestly, right now, I'm trying to find ways to incorporate dance and photography, and right now it is through film, which is like what I did with my recent video. Of course.
Your beautiful video featuring my favorite artist, James Blake. Yes.
Always. More to come. I remember a couple of years ago, actually, I had like this idea in mind that I wanted to take pictures that were like representative of a couple of his songs, because especially during that time a couple of years ago when I was withdrawing from all of my classes, his songs took such importance. So like I was trying to find a way to like express his lyrics, but I didn't like think at the time maybe I can connect it to dance. Like it didn't like connect in my brain.
But that's a part of the artist's journey. Like, you try something, you're like, oh, I like this, I'm gonna keep going with this, or let me try this.
Right, exactly. It's a process. So yeah, I got to the point where I was like, maybe I should like make a video, especially since I dance so often too. It seems like I don't know. And even then, with the video, and I think all artists go through this, where they're their own worst critic. Everybody says it. Yeah, I'm not satisfied with the way that like it turns out, because I still don't feel like I can truly capture what it's like to feel his music, or what it's like to experience the emotions you get from it.
Well, I will tell you, I thought, like, from the staging of the video to the way you were moving yourself, like, you have this you have very graceful movements when you dance, and, like, that's something I love about seeing you dance.
Thanks.
But the way that, like, you would start and stop, and it felt like so much of the, like, in his songs, a lot of times, like, in the way he sings, you can feel the hesitation, or, like,
that
the,
resonance.
Yes. Or, like, the negative mixed with, like, an optimistic outlook, or the other way around.
Exactly.
And I felt so much of that when I saw you dance. So I mean,
it's so kind.
I know we're always our own biggest critics, but remember that like your art is still very powerful.
Thank you. And I mean, I hope more people feel that way, because of course those are the intentions. I want people to feel the things, like, that's what inspires me about you. Just to make a note, you guys, Amber's amazing.
Thank you.
That's what inspires me about you and the works that you create, is that you really feel it, especially with your latest one, and the ocean. Oh my gosh, that one, amazing.
Thank you.
It just makes you feel something, and it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Inspiring.
Yes. Okay, so you talked a lot about nature, and you talk about wanting to incorporate your two primary mediums. Because I know you work in other things. Like, I know you've tried embroidery. I know you sketch a little bit. Like, yes, a little bit of everything. So, I guess I just want to talk about what moves you to create, like, in photography versus dancing, or, like, what feels like, oh, this is an idea that can only be expressed through dance, or is that something you even think about? Like, does it just come out, and then you, like, look at it later, and you're like, oh, yeah, that was just natural?
That's a good question. Actually, I think that everything, it's so hard to answer questions like that, because everything feels so situational. And it just goes back to that idea of how are you capturing a moment in time? And I honestly don't know. I guess sometimes, like you said, when I'm dancing a piece, I'm like, maybe that'll look good in this setting. Because I guess it's about presentation for the pieces that I create, to make sure that you can really feel that resonance that we were talking about. But, I don't know. That's a hard question.
Well, I think I don't know is a perfectly fine answer, too.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's also part of the process. Like, a lot of my things I do on the spot because of the idea that I'm going into it with, of, like, I'm trying to capture an authentic moment in time. So I don't think about a lot of the stuff until I kind of, like, get there. I don't know if that's a flaw in my process or that's just the process that I enjoy taking. It feels more natural than, like, setting everything up too much. I like things to be as minimal as possible.
No, instinct. And, like, especially when you're talking about feeling, like, you can't plan a feeling, you can't control a feeling, but when it comes, you experience it and you just got to deal with it.
Exactly that. Exactly that.
Okay. So, can you tell me what a recent inspiration for you has been? Or somebody who's inspirational to you right now? Anything? Whatever comes to mind.
Honestly, I would have to think about it more. Not that nothing inspires me, don't get me wrong. It's, I guess, rather that inspiration comes from everywhere. I'm inspired generally by watching people be observant, I guess.
She says, as my cat comes and sniffs
Sorry,
her foot.
Totally got distracted.
No. I think that's perfect. Like, Sophie.
Yeah. She's
Mm-hmm.
like just kind of meandering around, doing her thing, looking at the world. I think that's inspiring because it's hard to take a second and slow down and just relax. So yeah, I'm inspired by people who are able to just kind of sit, relax, take a second in time, and enjoy themselves as they are right now. Because it's, again, really hard to do that, especially what we were talking about earlier, and like you end up feeling like you're doing the same thing, and we get restless and depressed and anxious and tired and
all those things.
Exactly that. So I'm gonna stick with that answer. I'm inspired by people who are able to be mindful.
No, yeah, I think that's a great answer. And like, I had a little thing and it floated away.
Sorry.
No, because I really like that. Here, let me take a second to think.
I might take a second to munch on a cookie. Sorry, guys.
No. Breakfast is important.
Right now, it's gonna be way too loud in the mic.
Oh, here, I'll move it over here. Yeah, okay, so as you were saying that too, though, it does make me think, again, about how you were talking about capturing a moment in time, capturing a feeling, capturing, like, just this second, this impulse, whatever you feel. And I think in my painting, that's a lot more present, too. Sometimes I think even in a way that extends the moment a little more than, and I don't know what your process is like, but I know that when I'm taking a photograph, like, the way that I go about shooting is I just see something beautiful and I'm like, okay, let me snap a pic. And I don't do the staging thing. I typically don't really work with models unless they're close friends. So for me, it's like a very quick impulse, like on a dime, and then that's it. But when I'm painting, it's thinking about this one moment and constantly remembering it, like over the span of a few days or a few weeks. And so thinking about the timelessness and the instants that are both captured in a piece is really weird concept to wrap my mind around.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting way to put it. I guess you are like having so much more time to like sit, not, I wouldn't say so much more time, but to sit with your thoughts when you're creating a piece that's centered around, you know, the idea that you have in mind. You should elaborate on that more. I'm sorry to make you talk, but like, I'm interested on like, what is your process? What are you thinking about when you, or do you always have the same thing in mind when you're going in to do a certain piece?
Well, so for like the most recent one, that was actually a piece that like the vision came to me laying down in bed like a few months ago. And I was like, I had to meditate on that feeling actually for a couple months before I was able to even like sit down and paint it. And then when I did, it was over the span of like maybe 3 days or something. But yeah, and so I feel like for me, when I'm feeling something very intense, even like that sort of release that I think the painting, well, that I hope that painting depicts, of like I could take a deep breath, like the waves coming and washing the shores, like the birds flying calmly to their migration, which actually isn't like a breath at all. Like that's like an anticipation of
I was
their
gonna say,
rest.
like, but you can imagine the birds fluttering, and that gives you that sort of anticipation. That's beautiful.
Right.
Sorry, not to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, but yeah, and so like for me, it's like when I am thinking about a painting, and oftentimes it is just like an image that comes to my mind when I'm feeling something very intense, I am meditating on that feeling for a very long time, and like it might take some interrogation. Like I might be like, okay, well, why do I feel this way? Or like what's happening around me? Is this an accurate feeling of what I'm going through? But I do hold on to that for a really long time. And so like I can't imagine how that reflects in your medium, because I mean, I don't choreograph. So I want to know what that's like for you.
I see. Sorry, I'm taking in everything that you said. That was wonderful. I guess for choreography specifically, it's weird because I'm drawing, and I feel like with dancing, it's not that I have a hard time. I think it's kind of where I get to be my most expressive. But also, what I think is frustrating about dancing in an organized setting is that there become these techniques or these certain skills that you have, and I find myself in a repetitive state. And I think it's easy to forget to think, like you were saying earlier, it's easy to forget to sit and meditate on your emotions when dancing sometimes in these organized type settings. When I'm, again, referencing the video, what I like about improvising, so I'll take it this way. What I like about being able to improvise in dance is that it does allow you to kind of literally embody the emotions that you have been able to think about in your own time. I don't know. You're stumping me, Amber.
No, take your time.
This is great.
This is a great conversation. So
This is great. So yeah, what I like about improvising is that ability to take the emotions that you've kind of had in the back of your mind, and really there's something different about being able to embody them rather than speak them or write them or capture them in a picture or like do my little sketches and my little kind of words that feels more authentic than like if I am drawing or trying to, because I do my sketches of female figures and those, while they feel like I'm doing something, they just don't feel the same way that if I can be able to, I'm stumbling over my words now, for instance. I don't know.
No, but it's like I mean, you are your tool when you're dancing.
Right.
And, like,
yes,
you literally are the creator and the medium. Like, that is very powerful, and I can see how that would lend itself to expression in a way that, like, I can't really imagine through, like, the way that I do through painting.
Yeah, there's a different, I can't speak about it since I am trying to embody it. Even when it comes to this awkwardness, you see that I'm, like, posing myself in weird ways now because I don't know how to express the awkwardness.
And so you're
fully.
showing me.
So, like,
yes.
Exactly. So it's hard to talk about the process with dance because I don't know how to express it in a way that's not physically dancing. It's really hard. And that's where, like, it becomes really blurry also in terms of, like, putting together a production physically for me. I like the video format because I get to edit the way that my moves are communicated. Like, I wouldn't have been able to add, you know, those tiffs, those ticks in my... I could, but I would look crazy doing it myself. Not that other people don't tick amazingly, but I don't know. It's hard to talk about the process of me dancing versus my photography because I find it much easier to just move to show you what I mean when I'm trying to communicate my movement.
That instinct.
Exactly.
I would love to hear. Okay, I don't remember what the initial question I asked, but I loved your expression of the way that it was different for dance. It was something about like meditating on a feeling and how that happens over the course of whatever your span of creation is, and like does it change? So like, tell me a bit about when you do photography.
What do you mean? I'm sorry.
So, I think what the initial question was, because you brought up my most recent painting, and I was like, okay, well, this was a feeling that I had a few months ago.
Oh, yeah.
And I had to sit on it.
So I think with photography, I naturally gravitate towards, like, again, since I'm addressing time, over time, through time, rather, I'm addressing emotion. And that's why, again, I want to... This is just so hard. I don't know how to, like, speak right now.
Take all the time.
Edit this well, please.
I will. I will try. I haven't done it before.
You will. I got you. I don't know.
Well, okay, so because we both do photography, but you do it a lot more than I do, and I think that our approaches might be different. I'm not sure, but actually, they might not be that different. I remember our photography date that we had in the Franklin Park Conservatory, and we just went back and forth with the camera.
Right, that was really nice.
Yeah, that was really nice. We should do that again. But, so for me,
so I totally understand, like, it's just hard to, like, explain my process, because I'm understanding what your process is here. That's what you're going through, and I'm having trouble responding. That's all.
No,
it's not
okay.
The way that you're explaining it. It's just me responding to it.
Okay, so then do you want to come back to that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we'll come back to process on camera, but let's see here. I have a few questions. Also, this is a really good conversation. I'm very excited.
Thanks. This is a really good conversation.
No, I'm glad you agreed to do it. Okay, so okay, so this is about still your process of creation, but like more the tail end. So how do you engage with an audience with your work? Like, Do you create it with an audience in mind? Do you have an expectation of people when they're viewing your art?
I don't necessarily create it with... So I stopped trying to create rather things with an audience in mind, because I think that's also part of what can stump creativity, is, again, having that, you know, or feeling like there's an expectation on you is, you know, part of, I think, who you're trying to address in your audience, because you're thinking about a certain type of person to satisfy, rather than satisfying yourself and what your intentions are. I think that's different, though, than, like, finding a niche. I think that you can find niches, but not necessarily be targeting yourself or, like, having always one specific audience in mind. So when I create, I try my best, at least, to, like, not have anybody's expectations on me, as I feel like everybody, you know, probably does try to create for their own intention. That's the point of creation. But yeah, I don't think I'm trying to stray away from creating for a certain audience, just so I can feel a gist of what it would be like to feel like I am truly expressing myself. Yeah, because I feel like that holds me back a lot. Again, just dealing with what it is to feel the pressure of social media, back to that topic, or feeling the pressure of, you know, what your family wants, or just, I don't even want to care about that. I'm tired of caring about other people's opinions.
Retweet.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my answer to that. I'm just trying to create something that feels authentic to me, in essence.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I think not only for art, like, that's just a good life philosophy to go by. Like, yeah, the way that I move, the way that I am, the way that I live, this is, like, not to satisfy anyone but me.
No, right.
Which I think is what we all strive for.
Exactly. Being confident in ourselves and feeling whole with the things that we have, and the decisions that we make is super important. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to ask about where you see yourself with your art going in the future, like what you think a future looks like for you, what you hope, maybe what you don't hope.
I definitely, so I don't know if I've ever said this to you. But my, like, end all, of course I have goals that have to do with, like, I really want to travel and dance, and, like, a dance ensemble of some sort. That would be amazing. Actually, so pertaining to something you mentioned earlier, stuff we have going on, stay tuned. Me and Talia want to do some collaborative work also.
Okay. Can you give us a little sneak peek of what kind of collaboration?
So we want to put together some works that, you know, I don't want to give away too much. Okay. We're still, like, in talks about it, that have to do with our, like, two things. Mine of, like, time, the constant fleeting nature of time and change, and her, she wanted to incorporate the idea of, like, the loss of youth and how we adjust to that over time. So some works pertain to that, and, you know, her style is more, like, surrealist, and we're gonna incorporate that into my style and do some pieces together. Yeah.
Okay. So Talia is our mutual friend, Alexis's best friend. She is an amazing painter from Cleveland as well. Yes. I will link her in the show description.
Woo. Love her. Shout out.
Yes, true.
But yes, what were we talking about? Oh, goals, things for the future. So yeah, that was an aside. Personal goals like that I have, but my end all be all goal with the creative arts is to create some sort of, and that's also why my minor is in social personality psych, is to create some sort of, like, non-profit creative arts therapy program for youth, I'd really like to be able to have these kind of conversations with youth, because it's just so important to be able to take the younger generations and educate them as early on as possible, and give them the knowledge and give them the tools to succeed. I mean, everybody says this, you know, I want to be a active part of that as well. So I definitely, that's where I see myself in the future, is creating a program to be able to support the younger generations and their goals to be creative and expressive, and teach them what that means through artworks, and, you know, just give them the opportunity to learn about different cultures and all that good stuff. Like, I just really, that's my end all be all goal with all my creative arts and through all my personal goals. That's where I want to end up.
Wait, I'm really shocked though, because why is that also mine? Birds of a feather. Yes. You can have partner organizations.
Exactly. Yes. That's so amazing. That makes me so excited. I love when people just want to give back.
Yes, and like,
it's so important.
And yeah, in such a real way too. So actually, can you tell me a little bit more about why that is your be all end all goal? If you don't want to, that's fine. But
yeah, no, that's totally fine. You know, being a little girl from Cleveland, your girl struggled growing up, and I know that, in short, you know, what helped me get through those times of struggle was finding ways to be expressive, and when I couldn't use my words, you know, growing up, communication really wasn't a thing. We didn't know how to really interact with each other in healthy ways, and so growing out of that as an adult and learning how to interact, and learning what kind of opportunities I can have, and seeing, you know, the damage that was left behind or the life that I'm getting out of, I really want to be able to give more people that opportunity, or that willingness even to escape those patterns of trauma. So I don't know. Not saying every kid is traumatized, or, you know,
but everybody has their thing.
Exactly. Everybody has their thing, and again, the creative arts is what helped me in those times, and I know it's what helped many other people, and continues exactly to help people process their emotions. And I just think it's really important to teach kids that they're allowed to be expressive, and they're allowed to be healthy, and they're allowed to, you know, grow up to be whatever they want to be, you know. So
that's very true. Oh, you can go ahead and take a sip.
Sorry.
No. I also am going to take a sip.
So what inspires you?
What inspires me? Oh, I had a follow-up question, though, for you.
Sorry.
No, I will answer that briefly, and then I'll come back. So the follow-up question is going to be about how art does help people get through so much of, like, the things that they can't express with words. So you can think on that while I'm telling you. Actually, what inspires me right now, I feel like it's different things on different days too. Like, same. I think, yeah, like you said, inspiration really truly does come from everywhere. And so not to become overwhelmed by all of the inspiration I feel in the world, I also think that, like, I know for me, I pick one thing, and I'm like, I don't understand people who can churn out, like, paintings day after day after day, because
no, oh my goodness,
it's just like, for me that would be exhausting. So kudos to them.
Yeah,
I'm very impressed. Yes. But for me, I, like, once I have an idea, I like to hold on to it and really think about, like, the feeling behind it, because I think that where I, like, can definitely grow technically, I think that the strength in my works is that I try really hard to embody my feelings, and, like, not just in my paintings. I think that is more a reflection of the way that I live, but, like, growing up as an only kid, like, I was always, like, very in touch with my own inner world, because I was my companion. Yeah, you were also, yeah.
No, I was by myself a lot. I had older siblings.
Yeah. But are your siblings a lot older?
4 and 8 years apart.
Okay,
yeah. I was the youngest, so I sat in my room alone with my toys a lot.
Yeah. So though, like being in your own inner world. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so for me, even though I can draw inspiration from a lot of things, like a part of my processing the world and not getting overwhelmed, not only by the things that I want to create, but also just by the world overall, is really like meditating on what feels the most powerful. So for me, like through this pandemic time, it's been friendships, because on the days where I feel restless and I'm sick of sitting at home, I'm like, okay, well, I can always call a friend. My friends have always got me. I know there are people out there who are feeling the same things as me, who are willing to process with me. And so like that's my current inspiration for the next painting project I want to work on, and I have a couple of other things that I'm working on as well. Yes. We'll talk about those off. Yes. But so I want to come back to that idea of like the arts really being like sometimes the only method of processing your emotions, when like even for someone who might be a poet, like when you don't have the words to communicate in your daily life or in your relationships, there's an outlet there that embodies what you're feeling and who you are almost better than you can sometimes yourself.
And it's so feels so personal somehow.
I do really align with that idea. I mean, I think that there are lots of hard things. Like my tools have always been there, and they like don't feel separate from me. They feel like an extension of me. But it does feel different than going and talking to someone about like, hey, this is the thing I want to talk to you about, when I don't have the words for that, but I can paint it and show you.
Exactly. I think it's insane the way that we can attach ourselves to I think it's insane the way that we can attach ourselves to the things that we create that way, that like emotional that we physically feel that it is the embodiment of the thing that we are trying to communicate. And that it becomes such a necessity at some point, it's like a vice, art is like drugs in short, but it's a much healthier way, obviously, to go about being able to process your emotions. But I think that's exactly why it's so necessary, is so that you can process your emotions. I don't even have an explanation as to like why we feel so comfortable processing through artistic forms. Again, going back to what you were saying, instinct, it just feels natural. What I would be more interested also in knowing is like, why are people drawn to certain art forms? Or why does that, like, why does painting feel so natural to you?
Yeah, that's true.
And that's not a rhetorical. Why does it feel so natural to you? Do you think about that often? Of like, how am I just able to create these pieces that?
Yeah, actually, I really hadn't been painting until the past couple of years. Like when I was younger, I doodled a lot, I drew a lot, but painting was never really my medium. And then one day my friend Justice, actually, she's really awesome. She lives in Chicago now. She gave me like this small watercolor set for my 20th birthday. And I was just feeling down one day, and I was like, oh, let me try this. And then I ended up loving it. And so like since then, like painting has been my thing.
But have you always been like searching for me? Because I know you danced at one point, right? I remember you saying that a long time ago.
Yeah. So go ahead.
No. So I was just gonna say, like, so you're always like pushing to find something that's creative, like inherently, like naturally, though.
Yeah, and I mean, I could say it's because like my granddad was a painter, so like he did a lot of oil paintings, and my mom probably has like 10 or 20 of his pieces up in the attic. And he would like build his own frames and stuff, which he got from his mother, who did like carpentry. Like she didn't build houses and stuff, but she could like make furniture. And so I could say I got it from him. I think really what it was though was that my mom is a poet. She writes very beautiful poems. She doesn't share them, but I love them. And so my granddad had all of these ways of creating that my mom like didn't. But when I was growing up, she put me in everything. So I started dancing when I was like 5 or 6. I was in art classes at the museum. I was in different painting classes. Whenever like there was a birthday or a Christmas, I could pretty much count on getting some sort of art supplies. I always
So nice.
Yeah. And so like even she gave me a sewing machine that her mother had bought her when she was younger. And then like my grandma taught me how to make clothes, and we would like make different things. So it was, for me, I think it was because I don't know if they knew that I was like in my own inner world. No, I don't know if it's that they knew I needed like an outlet to express myself, or if they were just like, well, if you like it, let's try it. But whatever it was, I had a lot of encouragement growing up, and so that's like kind of where it came from. And then honestly, painting, just like I fell into it. And so I'm still developing my technical skills, but I love it. I think it is my medium. Yeah.
Wow, that's so beautiful. It made me think about how, and not to like twist it. I hope it doesn't like. It made me think about how we were talking about. Made me think about how we were talking about the way that our family pushes us. So I think it's very interesting, and I have like a similar background where I was surrounded by things that were pushing me to be expressive. Like, you know, I was surrounded by dancing when I was growing up, so maybe that's also what influenced me. My mom put me in the Cavs Kids when I was younger, so I was up there getting down on the on the floor of the, like, I was pushed to be creative, but it also wasn't, it still isn't, like, for you, something that they think it's still just a form of expression aside from like a main goal. So I'm so interested in the way that works out, how now we're both
trying to do this like as our thing.
Exactly. And I just wonder how it ties to the way that we grew up. And
we're both from inner city Cleveland, like
yeah, this is I don't know, I just think it's very interesting to see the way that the things we found comfort in when we were younger are what we're pursuing now. In
a world that, I might add, is so like hectic and crazy.
Exactly. Oh yeah, exactly. And so it really translates. I mean, you really see the way that the trauma has influenced us, like, throughout, not, you know, I don't know. That's just really interesting to me, the psychology behind it. This is my psychology minor coming out.
Well, okay, so let's delve into that. I like thinking about that, because you're right. So, like, I was talking to you earlier about how my family has this expectation that, like, art is going to be a side thing, and I'm going to finish my degree, and I'm going to get, like, some sort of a real job. And you expressed this, real job in quotations, and you expressed a similar thing. But then also how there's this, like, double-edged sword of how growing up the expectation was that art could always be the thing that I fell back on. And thinking, I know, like, from my experience, like, my mom was a single mother at 19, so for her, like, having your finances secured is, like, the most important thing, because that was something that was very unsure for a long time in my youth. And so for her, maybe it feels like the most secure thing is less about, like, your emotional expression and your physical safety. But I mean, we're growing up in a time where you can go to college and there's no guarantee that you're going to make enough money to pay back those loans.
Like, at all. You might not even get a job for 10 years. Like,
you might not even get a job, like, anywhere near what you were told you were supposed to be able to do.
Exactly.
And so for me, it does feel like, okay, well, I can't trust the outside world to always be there and to support me the way I need to, but I can trust that if I'm doing my art, I at least am like supporting myself. I am always honoring my feelings and the way that I see the world.
Right, exactly that. And I was having a similar conversation with Talia actually, and that we were talking about what is our draw between like sanity and, you know, feeling like we're doing something for ourselves. The difference between working a 9 to 5 or pursuing your expressive and creative goals is that trying to find a balance between being anxious about being financially secure or, you know, what do I want to do with myself, or how do I want to make, you know, this life count for me. So again, that's really interesting. And I also, my dad was most concerned about financial security. So I feel what you were saying earlier as well about that. Yeah. I don't know.
I know it's a lot to think about, but yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, like my art right now is not paying my bills, but it is the thing that feels
maybe the most grounding.
The most grounding, exactly that. Like I was gonna say fulfilling, but I think that grounding is honestly a better word. Because it's not just about meeting a goal, it's also about like really truly like being true to myself.
Exactly.
Exactly. My goodness. Okay. Wow, this was a really great conversation. I did not expect this to go down all of those tangents, but I love it.
Good. This is great.
Is there anything that you would like to share or that you think would be important for someone listening to this who's like, I'm trying to find my passion, I'm trying to get comfortable with like wherever it takes me?
I guess, you know, as much as we feel that time is constantly fleeting, and of course that's a major component of my work.
Yeah.
You know, we also have like all the time in the world. So I don't know. It's so important to just can I say that? To just do what you want to do in life and truly like live for yourself, because you'll hear it all the time. You're never gonna be successful in the way that you want to be unless you're doing the things that make you feel most authentic or make you feel the best. I don't know. Take a moment and think to yourself and be mindful.
Yes, step back and breathe.
Yeah, breathe, for sure.
Yes. Wow, okay. Thank you so much, Alexis, for talking with us. I will link her handle in the show description.
Yes,
thank you for tuning in. Yes.
You know, thanks for having me.
Yes.
I appreciate it. This was great.
It was truly a pleasure, and I feel like I got a lot out of this conversation.
Me too. Yeah. I feel very calm.
Yes. A great way to start the morning and the week. So I hope you guys have a great day. This was Figuring It Out with Amber GM, and we will be back next month on Verge FM.